Hello, my name is Jacob, and welcome to the sleepy cosmos. You lie in your bed, body still, the hush of night folding around you like soft cloth. The quiet hum of the world settles to a near silence. Somewhere outside, the sky stretches overhead, dark and vast and ancient, its stars glowing gently, like the memories of long-extinguished fires. And in this stillness, a question arises, not of where it all began, but of where it all goes. The universe breathes outward. You do too. Each breath a tiny echo of something much older, much grander, the slow and steady expansion of everything. Your lungs rise, your chest falls, and far beyond the ceiling, space stretches like a calm tide pulling back from shore. You think of time not as ticking, not as a clock, but as a widening, a soft unfolding, a blooming petal, a ripple in the dark. For billions of years, the universe has grown from a hot, dense beginning into the vastness you now lie beneath, and it is still growing. Quietly, always. Scientists once asked, how did it all begin? That question lit fires in ancient minds, long before telescopes or math. But now, many turn their gaze the other way, toward the distant future, toward the fading edge of time, because beginnings are only part of the story. Endings tell us how the story truly lives. So here, under this quiet sky, your thoughts drift outward, past clouds and winds, past planets circling their suns, past stars clustering into galaxies, and galaxies into filaments of light strung across space. You drift gently, like a leaf caught in the river of the cosmos, and you wonder, how will it all end? The answers don't come in shouts. They come in whispers, in theories shaped by equations, observations, and quiet watching. The universe does not hurry, and neither should you. Tonight, there is time to wander slowly through the possibilities. You start close to home with the stars above you. Some of those stars have already died. Their light, traveling across the gulf of space, only just reaches your eyes tonight. What you see is the past twinkling in the present. The universe is filled with these echoes, these quiet ghosts of former brilliance. Light travels faster than anything, yet still it cannot keep up with the speed of change. As the universe expands, light stretches. Like paint pulled across a growing canvas, it thins. The colors grow faint, sliding into red, then infrared, then far beyond what your eyes can see. This stretching of light is how we know the universe is moving outward, not with force, but with softness. A breath, a tide, a whisper. And with this expansion comes cold. Not today, not for us, but one day, over unimaginable time, stars will flicker out, galaxies will drift apart, the warmth will spread so thin it is barely there at all. This is one possible future, the heat death of the universe, not in fire, but in stillness, not an explosion, but a great exhale that never ends. But you don't need to rush there. Close your eyes and feel the moment you're in. You are part of this universe, not separate from it. The atoms in your hands, your breath, your thoughts, all once forged in stars. You are, in a very real way, the universe looking back on itself. And as you wonder about its fate, it is also wondering through you what will become of its own being. You imagine the edges of time, far, far ahead, trillions of years into the future, galaxies grown quiet, black holes slowly evaporating. Even protons, those tiny pieces of matter, possibly beginning to decay. The fabric of reality loosening at the seams. Yet even this isn't destruction. It's a soft release. A fading, not a fall. These ideas can feel too big, too distant. But tonight, they are lullabies. They move slowly, as dreams do. They do not demand to be solved, only held, felt, wondered over. Cosmologists speak in strange tongues of dark energy, of entropy, of time's arrow. But you don't need equations here. You only need your imagination, gently guided. You only need to float. Think of the universe like a great library. Every star a page, every galaxy a chapter. You've entered in the middle of the book, and one day the last page will turn. But the story doesn't end in silence. Even the last line holds meaning. And tonight, you've just begun reading. The stars you see now are old. They've burned for billions of years, but even they are young in the eyes of the cosmos. The universe may live for ages, still beyond our counting. Its death, if such a word fits, will be unlike anything we know. No crash, no bang, just a gentle winding down. And perhaps that's comforting. Perhaps all things, even the greatest things, end not in violence, but in quiet, in coolness, in stillness. The way fire burns down to ember, the way a song lingers after its last note, the way sleep drapes slowly over the mind. The first whisper of the end is not loud or urgent. It's just a question, a soft voice in the dark. What happens when everything slows? What happens when the stars dim, when the light stretches too thin to see, when time itself seems to rest? You do not need to answer. You only need to listen. Let your mind drift, carried by curiosity, not fear. Let the question settle beside you like a gentle companion. For there is still so much to learn, and you have all the time in the universe to wonder. Somewhere out there, stars are already fading, but they do so slowly, beautifully, like candles, whispering to sleep. And with them, another question flickers softly into being. If the stars must die, what happens to their light? Let us drift now deeper toward the fading edge of fire, toward the story of the stars, and how their hearts grow quiet. You begin the journey tonight by returning to something familiar, the stars above you, the quiet lanterns that have lit human wonder for as long as eyes have looked up. They seem eternal, don't they? So steady, so distant. But even these brilliant fires must one day go out. It starts small, a flicker, a shift. But everything that burns must one day cool. You breathe, and with your breath you carry pieces of stars. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the carbon of your breath. These were forged in stellar cores. You are made of remnants, of stardust, shaped into form by gravity and time. It's a quiet miracle, and one that ties you to the life of the stars in more than metaphor. And just like you, they are born, they grow, they shine, they fade. So let's drift together now into their world, not in haste, but in reverence, to witness how stars live and how they end. Close your eyes and imagine a great cloud of gas and dust floating silently in the cradle of space. It is cold, dark, but inside it, something stirs. Gravity begins its soft pull, gathering matter into tighter arms. The cloud collapses inward, dense and hot. At the center, pressure builds. Hydrogen atoms begin to fuse. A chain reaction is lit. A star is born. The newborn star blazes into existence, a beacon in the dark. It is fierce in its youth, fueled by the same fusion that powers your own warmth. For billions of years, it will shine like this, holding a balance between the outward push of fusion and the inward tug of gravity. A delicate, invisible tension. Our own sun is in this phase now, stable, glowing, generous, but not forever. Eventually, the fuel begins to run low. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the balance shifts. The core contracts, heats, ignites new layers of fusion. The outer shell expands. The star swells into a red giant, larger, cooler, more unstable. Its light softens, reddens, like a fire at dusk, and then it lets go for smaller stars. Like the sun, this ending is gentle. The outer layers drift away into space, forming a glowing shell called a planetary nebula, a soft halo of farewell. At the center, a white dwarf remains, dense, small, and slowly cooling. It does not shine by fire anymore, but by the fading memory of heat. Over trillions of years, it too will darken into silence. Larger stars go out more dramatically. When their cores collapse, they explode in a brilliant supernova, scattering elements into space. It is destruction, yes, but also creation. In the furnace of the explosion, heavier elements are born: gold, silver, uranium, scattered like seeds into the galaxy. From this wreckage, new stars, new planets, and new life may one day form. Still larger stars may leave behind something stranger, a neutron star, or a black hole, matter compressed into extremes, light bent into mystery. But even these final acts are not truly final. Over immense spans of time, even these objects will change, fade, or dissolve. All across the universe, stars are born and stars die. It is a rhythm older than memory, and one day, not tomorrow, not soon, but inevitably, star birth itself will slow. The gas clouds that give rise to new stars will grow scarce. Galaxies will grow quieter. The sky will dim. You imagine such a time, a universe without new light, a sea of aging stars drifting through widening space. The bright era of the cosmos over. Only embers remain, but still those embers glow. Some stars, the smallest ones, burn so slowly they may last for trillions of years. These red dwarfs, faint and stubborn, live lives far longer than any of us can truly grasp. You could perhaps the universe remembers. Perhaps this light, perhaps it is a kind of memory, a soft record of every moment that ever was. You are not separate from this story. You carry it in your cells. In your breath, the same forces that fuel stars, gravity, fusion, entropy, move through you, quietly. You are part of this gentle unraveling, this slow and beautiful change. So you lie beneath the sky, and though it seems still, you know, it is changing, not with chaos, but with calm. A great, slow transition from brilliance to quiet, not unlike life itself. The fading light of the stars is not something to fear. It is something to honor, to witness, to imagine. As their fires die down, they give back all they once held: energy, matter, possibility. They seed the next generation. They offer their warmth to what comes after. You are the after. You are the child of stars, long gone. And you will return, one day, to the elements they gave. The stars fade, yes, but they do not disappear, and neither, perhaps, do we. You feel the stillness deepen now. The sky holds its breath. The universe has shown you the slow goodbye of stars, the soft extinguishing of fire, the long patience of time, and still, you wonder, in the deep dark after the stars, what remains, what dances, in the space between, what becomes of the galaxies that held these stars like precious beads. Let us drift toward them, slowly, and listen to the silent dance they perform. You drift now, farther from the light of dying stars, beyond the gentle flicker of suns going still. You float into deeper space, where stars no longer shine alone, but gather in vast cities of light, galaxies, enormous islands scattered through the ocean of the cosmos, each holding billions upon billions of stars, swirling silently in patterns shaped by gravity and time. You've left the warmth of individual stars. What surrounds you now is broader, slower, more spacious, the quiet choreography of entire galaxies. Imagine a maple leaf caught in a gentle stream. It twirls, glides, spins with the current, sometimes bumping into others, sometimes floating alone. Now imagine each leaf is a galaxy, and the stream is space itself, stretching, carrying everything within it. That's where you are now, drifting through this stream, watching the galaxies glide. It is not a dance of sound or speed, but of patience. A ballet performed over billions of years. Look around, there's Andromeda, our closest large neighbor, shaped like a spiral, unfurling in the dark. Her arms are filled with stars and clouds, stretching out in cosmic grace. She moves slowly toward us, not falling, not crashing, but inching closer every moment, pulled by gravity's quiet hand. In about 4 billion years, she and our Milky Way will touch, not with violence, but with a long and beautiful merging, two galaxies blending into one. Stars will not collide. The space between them is far too great. Instead, they'll pass through each other, reshuffling, rebalancing, like dancers switching partners mid-waltz, for a time. The sky above Earth, if Earth still exists, may glow with brilliant patterns of stars curving and curling across the night, a galactic embrace painted across the fire moment. Then, over time, the two will settle into one. A new galaxy, larger, quieter, more stable. The Milky Way, as you know it, will be gone. But in its place, something new will spin. This is the way of galaxies. They do not last as we see them now. They interact, they change shape, they merge, they fade. Some are swallowed by others. Some are stretched thin by tides of gravity. Some are flung out into space, left wandering alone. Galaxies live by their own rhythms. Now, look farther, past Andromeda, past our local group of galaxies, into the larger cosmic web. It stretches like a ghostly net through the universe. Clusters of galaxies strung together by filaments of dark matter. Between these strands, there are vast voids, regions where almost nothing resides, places of stillness so profound they feel untouched by time. The galaxies are not standing still. The space between them is growing. This expansion, gentle, persistent, carries them away from each other, like dots drawn on the surface of a balloon as it inflates. The galaxies drift apart, not by their own motion, but because the space between them swells. The further they are, the faster they recede. This is not motion through space. It is space itself growing, and it changes everything in the far future. The universe will grow so vast, so stretched, that galaxies beyond our local group will disappear from view. Their light will no longer reach us. They will fade not because they cease to be, but because the space between becomes too wide to cross. Imagine living in that time, looking up into a night sky with no Andromeda, no Virgo cluster, no deep-field galaxies scattered like jewels, only the remnants of our local neighborhood dimming slowly. The universe, once so full of visible light, becomes quiet, not empty, but isolated. It's a lonely image, and yet not a sorrowful one. There's a kind of peace in this unfolding, a universe not dying in chaos, but spreading into stillness. The great gatherings part ways. Friends who once danced together move off into the dark, each holding the memory of their meeting. You imagine yourself as one of these galaxies, a spiraled being of stars and dust, moving ever farther from your kin. You do not stop shining. You simply shine alone, and in that solitude you reflect. Even now, in our present age, you can sense this change. Astronomers track the redshift of galaxies, a stretching of light into longer wavelengths, a sign of their retreat. They measure it carefully, like counting heartbeats in the dark. It's how we know the universe is expanding. It's how we know that what once burned close is moving farther away. Still, not everything is drifting. Within gravitational families, clusters and groups, galaxies remain bound, pulled together by the invisible strands of mass. Our Milky Way and Andromeda are tied together, caught in the same quiet whirlpool. But beyond that, ties fray. Distance grows. The silent dance becomes a solo, and yet something beautiful remains. The vastness, the slow grace, the endlessness of it all. In the space between galaxies, between stars, between atoms, something sacred stirs. Stillness is not absence. Distance is not loss. The galaxies teach you this. They are not rushing, not struggling, not resisting. They simply follow the path written into the fabric of the cosmos. They move as the universe moves, with patience, with inevitability, with grace. You feel your breath slow. The quiet around you deepens. You are floating in a sea of motion, too slow to see, too vast to hold, and yet you feel it. You are part of it. Your body, your heartbeat, your thoughts, all unfolding on a stage built from galaxies that spun long before you were born and long after they vanish. The memory of their motion remains. The stars dimmed, and now the galaxies have begun to drift apart. One day, light itself may not be enough to hold them close. One day, only the nearest companions will remain. The dance ends not with a bow, but with a long and silent parting. You wonder, then, what carries them, what stretches the space between, what strange, unseen force tugs quietly at the seams of the cosmos. Let us drift now toward that question, into the dark energy that hums beneath it all. The fire is nearly out. Not in your room, not in the world around you, but out there, far beyond even the faintest star. The cosmos, once young and burning, is entering a kind of stillness. It is not sudden. It does not shout. It arrives like a slow winter, gently blanketing everything in silence. You breathe in, slowly, exhale, and imagine the universe doing the same. Not in breath, but in motion. A deep, cosmic exhale that has taken billions of years and is not yet done. This chapter is about that breath, the last one, the longest one. Scientists call it heat death. But the name is misleading. It does not come with heat, nor with death. In any fearful sense, it comes with balance, with quiet, with the final unfolding of everything into everything else. Imagine a cup of tea steaming on a winter windowsill. You place it there and walk away. At first, it's hot, a swirl of energy, warmth, motion. But over time, slowly, it begins to cool. It loses its heat to the room around it. The molecules within it slow. The steam stops rising until, eventually, the tea and the air are the same. No difference, no gradient, no exchange, just stillness. That's heat death. But on a scale so vast, it's hard to hold in your mind. Not just a single cup, not just a room, but the entire universe. It begins with stars, those long burning torches scattered across space. One by one, they go out. The big ones burn through their fuel quickly, flaring into brilliant ends. The smaller ones, like red dwarfs, flicker for trillions of years before fading. Eventually, the sky loses its glow. There are no new stars to be born. The galaxies go dim. Now imagine time stretching forward, longer still, beyond stars, beyond planets. The remains of stellar corpses, white dwarfs, neutrons, no light, no stars, no movement beyond random flickers. No heat to flow from one place to another. Everything is the same temperature, everywhere. Perfect equilibrium. Nothing left to do. No work left to be done. A universe at rest. This isn't a tragedy. Not in the way bedtime fears sometimes whisper. It has spread out its energy like soft light across a vast canvas. It has reached, slowly, the point where there is nowhere else to go. The story is not about endings, but about reaching the end of motion. You lie there now, feeling the stillness, not as emptiness, but as fullness. Every atom, every photon, every pulse of light has traveled its long, long road. Now, all things are resting. Even time itself seems to slow. Without change, time becomes hard to measure. It drifts, directionless, a still lake without ripples. But your thoughts ripple gently. On you wonder. If everything is the same, no difference in temperature, no structure, no activity, is anything still there? Yes, something remains: the fabric of space itself, the idea of time. Not of return, perhaps, but of reflection. Heat death is not the heat we fear, it's the absence of gradients, the slowing of change until change is no longer possible. Entropy, the great quiet conductor of the universe, has done its work. Entropy is not destruction. It is dispersal. It is balance. It is the soft closing of a book, once all pages have turned. And here, lying in the cool hush of this imagined future, you feel something surprising. Peace, not emptiness, not fear, but a kind of completeness. The stars have lived their lives. The galaxies have danced. The black holes have swallowed and faded. The tea has cooled. And now there is quiet. It does not cling to brightness or structure. It allows. You think of your own moments, of busy days and flickering thoughts, of heat in your own life, energy, desire, movement, and perhaps you sense the invitation here, not to fear stillness, but to recognize it as part of the pattern, as something natural, as something whole. You imagine the last particle drifting through the void, so far from anything else that it may never meet another. Yet even in that solitude it moves, a silent gesture toward the story that came before. You wonder what might follow. Is this truly the end? Or could something stir again? Perhaps not a rebirth, but a fluctuation. Could new order emerge from this uniform quiet? Physics suggests that once heat-death arrives, the universe has no more potential to create, no more contrasts to draw energy from, and yet the mind floats there anyway, imagining, hoping, listening, maybe not for rebirth, but for resonance, a song hummed long ago, still trembling faintly in the air. And so you rest here, not at the edge of destruction, but in the open palm of calm. The universe is not over. It is at rest. It is the hush that follows the last note of a long, beautiful piece. Stillness becomes the new rhythm. Silence becomes the last sound. And in that silence, a soft question arises. If the universe rests, what power still stirs beneath that quiet? What is this gentle push, this invisible tide that keeps expansion alive? Something stirs in the silence, not loud, not sudden, but there, beneath the hush of heat-death, beneath the quiet breath of drifting galaxies, a subtle presence, a faint pressure, not something you see or feel, not directly, but you sense it, like the faintest breeze brushing past a candle flame, like the pull of the tide long before the water moves. Something is pushing or pulling, or both. This chapter is about that unseen hand. It has no name you can picture, no shape you can hold. Scientists call it dark energy. But the word dark means only that we don't understand. An energy that it moves. You drift with it now. Imagine space not as a backdrop, not as an empty stage, but as something alive, not with breath or thought, but with expansion, a fabric that stretches gently, relentlessly. Once, the expansion of the universe was slowing. Gravity held things close. Galaxies pulled on one another like dancers, trying to stay in rhythm. But now, that rhythm has changed. Around 5 billion years ago, long after the first stars had formed, but long before the last, the universe began to accelerate. Not slowly at first, but then. The expansion, once steady, began to race, as if space itself had grown restless. This acceleration is not caused by stars or planets, not by matter, or even by dark matter, the hidden scaffolding that holds galaxies together. It is caused by something else entirely, dark energy. No one knows exactly what it is. It doesn't clump or gather. It doesn't swirl or shine. It doesn't form stars. It doesn't weigh the way normal matter does. And yet it fills the universe, woven through every stretch of distance, every pocket of emptiness. Imagine a balloon slowly inflating. Now imagine that each time the balloon grows, the force causing it to expand gets stronger. The more it grows, the faster it grows. This is dark energy, a quiet acceleration, gently tearing space apart. You don't feel it here in your room. It's too faint on small scales. Gravity holds your feet to the earth, the moon to the earth to the sun. But across the vast spaces between galaxy clusters, dark energy takes over. It pushes, it stretches, it speeds, and it changes everything. You imagine galaxies as boats floating on a black ocean, pushed ever farther apart, not by paddles, not by wind, but because the sea itself is growing between them. They don't need to move. The space between them does, and the farther they drift, the more alone they become. In the far future, if dark energy continues, galaxies will vanish beyond each other's horizons. Light will take too long to cross the ever-widening gulfs. Each galaxy or cluster will be a solitary island, no messages. If it will push not only galaxies apart, but the stars within them, if it will tear apart solar systems, if one day it will stretch atoms themselves, until there is no thing left at all. This possibility has a name too. The Big Rip, a future where the universe is torn open by its own expansion. You imagine it softly, not in horror, but in wonder. But with release, you feel the silence again now. But this time, you know something else is moving within it. Not chaos, not order, just change. Dark energy doesn't roar, it hums. It fills every gap, but hides from every eye. It is both gentle and unstoppable. It may be part of space itself. It may be something entirely new, something not yet imagined. But whatever it is, it shapes the fate of everything. In the early universe, it was weak, hidden beneath the weight of matter and heat. But now, as stars burn out, as matter spreads, thin, dark energy becomes the dominant player, the final sculptor, the last wind, and you are floating in it. It does not threaten, it does not promise, it simply is. You close your eyes and imagine a future so vast, so distant, that dark energy has done its work. Galaxies gone, stars cold, atoms alone, and still the fabric stretches, like sleep itself, stretching out beyond a dream. But even this ending, if it is an ending, carries a mystery, because in all this pulling and expanding, there is still structure, still patterns, still a kind of quiet purpose. You wonder, what else lies beneath that fabric? What other strange shapes live just beyond our sight? The stars are gone. The galaxies have drifted out of reach, and space stretches wider with every heartbeat of time. Yet something remains, something dark and slow and unseen. And in that dark, perhaps something else flickers, far smaller, far quieter. A whisper at the edge of physics, the cold breath of particles that barely touch anything at all. Let us follow that whisper now, into the realm of neutrinos, into the ghosts that may never stop moving. The universe breathes out. That is the feeling now. Expansion as breath, slow and unending. You are suspended in that breath, light as ash, light as thought. The stars have dimmed, galaxies drift like islands through mist, and all around you, space is stretching. This is not violence, this is quietness grown vast. A hush so wide that it begins to pull at the seams of everything. You rest within it. But you can feel something shifting beneath the calm. It's as if the silence is too thin now, stretched, worn, fraying at the edge. And this edge has a name, the Big Rip. It begins not with noise, not with collapse, but with momentum. A kind of soft runaway, the slow swing of a pendulum that forgets how to return. Dark energy, the invisible force accelerating the expansion of the universe, does not remain steady. In this possible future, it grows stronger with time. You picture it like a tide, not water, but space-time itself, swelling and pulling. At first, the tide moves galaxies apart. Then it unbinds galaxy clusters, then galaxies themselves, then star systems, then planets. Each bound system, once stable in its gravity, is slowly undone, like a string loosened, one loop at a time, like the buttons of a coat undone in the wind. You imagine looking at the night sky during such a future, but there is no sky anymore, not in the way you remember. Galaxies have slipped past the limits of visibility. Their light can no longer reach your eyes. Your home becomes the only beacon in the dark, and soon even that begins to stretch. In this vision, the expansion becomes so fast, so fierce, that it overwhelms all forces, even the ones that hold atoms together. It is a kind of cosmic evaporation. First, gravitational bonds vanish. The orbits of moons loosen, planets drift from their stars. Next, stars themselves dissolve, their atoms torn apart by the rising tide of space. And then comes the smallest scale, molecules, atoms, nuclei. What once was indivisible now is not. All because the space between things grows too fast for the things to hold on. And you are not destroyed, but released. There is no pain in this, no chaos, just a thinning, a soft unraveling, like fabric left in the sun too long, finally giving way. It may sound like the end of everything, and perhaps it is, but perhaps also it is transformation, in the same way that snow becomes mist, that mist becomes sky, that sky becomes starlight. The universe may simply be moving into a new form, one where distance no longer means anything, where space is not a place, but a process, and time still moves forward. But the clocks you knew, sunrises, seasons, revolutions of planets, have long since fallen silent. Here, time is felt, in the soft rhythm of space growing. It is a tempo you can't tap your foot to, only feel in your chest, in the long, slow drumbeat of existence, stretching wide. In the big rip, everything unbinds. But before the final tear, there is a strange serenity, a universe where everything is moving away from everything else, where the past is unreachable, the future unknowable, and only this moment, this pause between pulses, remains. And here, in this moment, you lie weightless. It's peaceful. This dissolution, it's not a storm, it's a surrender. The atoms in your body do not resist. They drift apart slowly, like petals falling underwater. You are not destroyed. You are dispersed. Every piece of you set free to continue the journey, not as one thing, but as many. What remains when even structure is gone? Perhaps there is still curvature, still texture, still echoes. Perhaps the universe continues, not as a place of things, but as a song of spaces. A vibration, thin and wide and smooth. And maybe, just maybe, something persists even here. Something that doesn't need form or time or closeness. Something small and nearly nothing, yet still moving. You feel it coming, not a presence exactly, but a persistence. Neutrinos, ghost particles, born in the hearts of stars, survivors of supernova, messengers of the very early universe. They pass through everything, through planets, through stars, through you, without pause. Even now, even at the edge of unraveling, they keep moving. Endlessly. Perhaps they outlast the big rip. Perhaps they are the last dancers on the stage. Their motion is quiet, gentle, almost unreal, but they are real, and they carry with them a kind of memory, a hum of what once was, a promise that not all motion must end. And so, as the fabric phrase becomes, matter gives way to motion, and light becomes lost in distance. You follow the neutrinos. You follow the quiet, for even when all things fall apart, something always drifts on. You drift now toward the end of weight, toward the slowest places time has ever known. The galaxies have grown distant, the stars have gone dim, and the cosmos is quieter than ever, but not empty, not yet. There are still shapes here, dark, dense, quiet forms, still hearts beating slowly in the great stillness. You are near one now. You feel its pull like a forgotten lullaby, a black hole. It doesn't shine, and yet it defines its place in space more sharply than light ever could. It is not a thing, but a region, not an object, but a horizon, a place where the fabric of space folds so steeply inward that nothing, not light, not sound, not even memory, returns from within. You hover just outside the edge of it, the event horizon. This is the border between knowing and unknowing. To fall past it is to fall forever, not into violence, but into silence. You don't fall, you stay. Here, time moves differently. Your breath is unchanged, but distant clocks would race past. This black hole, massive and ancient, bends the hours into oceans, and from its edge, something faint escapes. Not a scream, not a burst, a whisper. Stephen Hawking once imagined it, the black hole slowly shedding itself, radiating a slow glow, not from its center, but from the quantum flickers at its boundary. Hawking radiation, born from the nothingness that surrounds everything. You picture it, like dew beating on the edge of a leaf. Particles forming not inside the hole, but just outside, in the fabric of space-time it bends. These are not loud emissions. They are not even hot, not anymore. This black hole is old, older than your dreams, older than the memory of starlight. And its radiation is a cool, slow sigh, the temperature just above absolute zero. You feel its breath over millennia. There was a time when black holes devoured stars. They danced in the centers of galaxies, swallowing suns, shaping spiral arms. But that time is gone. There are no more stars to feed on, no more dense clouds to consume. Now they shrink. Very slowly. It is a kind of unwinding, not of spinning or motion, but of certainty. A loosening of the firm grip they once had on matter. A black hole's mass determines its temperature. The larger it is, the colder it becomes, the slower it evaporates. This one is enormous, and so its unraveling is glacial, slow even on cosmic scales. You wonder how long it will take. And the numbers are large, 10 to the power of 100 years or more. A span so vast that it folds imagination into mist. But time is not heavy here. Each one a step toward its end. You think about how the black hole formed, perhaps from a collapsed star or the merger of ancient giants. You think of all the matter it once contained, all the energy it absorbed, all the chaos and violence and heat, and now you see only stillness. Even black holes, those deepest wells in space, are not forever. They, too, will yield, not with an explosion, not with drama, but with the patience of unknitting thread. As the black hole shrinks, its temperature rises. Very slowly, it grows warmer. Still cold by any earthly measure, but climbing. in its final stages, long, long. From now, it will glow more brightly, losing mass more quickly. A final flare, not from within. From the skin of space, you try to imagine that end, a black hole becoming light, fading into radiation, its singularity vanishing into silence. It's not like watching a star die. It's like watching a shadow uncast. You sit beside it, feeling time like sand, dry, fine, eternal, flowing without sound. These are the last things in the universe that can truly change. Everything else is cold, inert, diluted into space. But black holes still hold on to energy, still have mass, still carry memory, and when they are gone, what remains then? The universe will be quiet, filled only with particles drifting in the dark, so widely spaced they may never meet. Photons stretched too far to be seen. Neutrinos still whispering, still moving, but almost lost in the vastness. You imagine such a cosmos, no galaxies, no stars, no black holes, only space, only motion, only memory. It's not empty, not quite, but it is still, still in a way that feels like rest, still in a way that feels like peace. The black hole beside you sighs again, another particle gone. It may take trillions upon trillions of years, but eventually, it too will vanish, not explode, vanish. You reach out your hand, not to touch, but to sense, to feel the presence of something that is more boundary than body. You wonder if even as it fades, it remembers, if its final breath carries some trace of all it held inside. Some say information can't be lost, not really, that even if you burn a letter, the smoke and ash still carry its message, just harder to read. And so perhaps, long after black holes disappear, their stories remain scattered in the haze of radiation, the embers of their final moments. You lie back and listen to the cosmos breathe, slower now, deeper. You know there are no more stars to form, no galaxies to gather, but perhaps, beyond black holes, there are still surprises. You feel it, faint and strange, a sense of unfinished motion, something beyond even these heavy, fading giants, a whisper not of light, but of entropy, of disorder growing in the dark, and in that entropy, a subtle shape begins to form. You drift forward, not through space, but into something stranger. You pass no stars, no galaxies, not even a whisper of warmth, just the dark between, grown vast and silent. Now, even the last black holes have faded. No more mass, no more light, no more breath. And in this emptiness, something unexpected begins to reveal itself. It is not a sound, not a sight, but an absence so complete it has shape. You feel it first in your chest, like waiting for a clock to chime, and realizing the clock is gone. Time has not ended, but it no longer behaves, no longer ticks, no longer moves in this far future universe, this thin, cold stretch of space. Everything is so evenly spread, so impossibly still, that nothing changes. And if nothing changes, how do you tell one moment from the next? The heartbeat of the cosmos was always motion, stars flaring, planets spinning, galaxies colliding, entropy rising, heat dispersing. Then it slowed into bends and curves. Now the river has become a lake, perfectly still, not even a ripple. You are in that lake. You are not trapped. You are floating. No tide pulls you. No wind moves you. There is only the feeling of existing within a single endless moment, you think of clocks. Not the kind that tick, but the kind that count change. A melting ice cube, a tree bending toward the sun, a shadow lengthening across the floor. Clocks once lived in the things that moved, but now there is nothing left to count. No movement, no melting, no shadows. Does time stop when nothing happens, or does it just lose its meaning? You do not know, but you feel it. This is not time as you once knew it. This is time as geometry, time as symmetry, time as stillness. Perhaps it still passes, but without change, it has become invisible. And so you float inside it, not above or below. And you wonder, if there are no clocks, is there still time? You touch the fabric of space, and it's smooth, not cold, not warm, just uniform. Calm. Featureless. This is the universe at maximal entropy. No gradients, no imbalance, no cause for motion. It is not lifeless, but it is changeless. Even quantum fluctuations, the smallest jitterings, become stretched out, dissolved across immensity. You try to measure a second, but there's no heartbeat, no pendulum, no echo. The concept slides through your fingers, like light through water. What you feel instead is a kind of suspension, like being held between inhale and exhale, a moment that never resolves, a question never quite answered. This is not death, this is not sleep, this is being without becoming. And slowly, gently, your thoughts begin to adapt. Miss movement. You don't reach for sound. You listen to the silence as if it were a song with no beginning or end. Your memories float beside you, not in order, not like a story, but like leaves drifting on a mirror's surface. Time here is not about sequence, it is about presence. You wonder, can something end if nothing moves to reach the end? You remember the idea of thermodynamic time, a direction of time defined by increasing disorder. But when entropy stops increasing, does time lose its arrow? Perhaps it becomes a circle, or perhaps it becomes a plane, infinite yet frozen, and yet something within you resists the idea that this is all. You feel the faintest flicker, not of heat, not of light, but of question. Even in a motionless cosmos, curiosity stirs. Even if no clocks remain, wondering continues. You ask the universe, softly, what comes after the end? And the universe does not answer, but neither does it close the door. You are not alone in your thought. In this silence, you sense echoes, not voices, not minds, but patterns. Fossils of motion, ghosts of curvature, faint structures lingering at the edge of dissolution. Maybe time isn't gone. Maybe it's just resting, coiled like a spring, waiting for something new. And what could that be? A fluctuation, a low probability event, a wrinkle in the fabric of stillness. Some physicists once imagined that in an eternity of time, random fluctuations could birth new beginnings, that entropy, even in its stillness, might one day hiccup, might bubble, a fluctuation so rare that it births heat again, structure again, a kind of reset. You drift inside that possibility like a leaf on water. You don't cling to it, but you hold space for it, because even in perfect stillness, potential remains. And that is where your thoughts settle, not on endings, but on the idea that even stillness can be fertile, that even timelessness can dream. Your hand grazes the surface of this quiet cosmos, and you feel not time, but the memory of time. A warmth once known, a heartbeat once counted, a journey not quite finished, and in that soft space between stillness and beginning, something stirs, not a sound, but a question taking form. You float in the quiet after time. It stretches around you like dusk that never darkens, a stillness that neither deepens nor fades. The universe is soft and diffused now, its story read to the last page. But what if there are more pages, pages not yet turned, or maybe read, before you drift in this thought? Because even in stillness, ideas move. They rise like mist from warm ground, from minds that once looked forward and back. Cosmologists, like dreamers, have wondered, is this it? Or is there a next? Not just a next moment, but a next universe. Some say the cosmos could loop, not through magic, but through motion. A cycle so immense, you'd never know you were repeating. Imagine it. Everything pulled inward, galaxies reversing course, time folding back toward a single point, a big crunch mirroring the Big Bang, a universe inhaling its own history. You picture this contraction, matter growing dense again, heat rising, light colliding, chaos building, until everything is gathered tight like a fist, and then release. Another beginning, a bounce. Theories call it the oscillating universe, a loop of expansion and collapse like a cosmic tide, waves of creation and silence echoing forever. You hold that possibility gently. There's something comforting in it, the idea that nothing is ever truly gone, only returned, reshaped, remembered. But others suggest a different kind of restart. Not a loop, but a bounce, a shift from one universe into another. Born not from collapse, but from quantum chance. You imagine that bounce, a universe stretched to its limits, its fabric, trembling with subtle energy. And then, a ripple, a fluctuation so rare, it breaks the silence. Not a sound, not a light, but a change, a rupture in stillness. And from that rupture, a new seed, a new time, a new beginning, sealed off from the last. This, some call the Big Bounce, where a prior universe gives rise to the next, not in a line, but as beads on an endless thread. The cosmos may not return to what it was, but it may echo, each version shaped slightly differently, each beginning whispered into existence by the memory of what came before. And then there is another view, one that does not cycle, does not bounce, one that simply ends. The universe expands forever. Matter thins, heat drains, time stretches. No rebirth, no renewal, just an eternal stillness, the heat death carried to its quiet extreme. This is the forever stillness, not cruel, not sudden, just patient. A hush so complete it becomes the final state of being. In this version, the universe doesn't vanish, it fades, not into nothing, but into enough. Enough spread, enough silence, that no more stories can begin. You imagine it like a candle whose flame doesn't go out, but grows so wide, so cool, that it becomes invisible. No collapse, no bounce, just the slow unraveling into perfect calm. And yet, even here, in this idea of finality, questions remain. What if new universes are born not from our ending, but in unreachable corners, in quantum froth you can never see? What if, beyond this vast stillness, there are other beginnings, parallel to physics? You cradle this idea to a garden of cosmos, each bloom opening unaware of the others. They are lullabies, theories made of wonder, meant not to solve, but to hold. And so you hold them, In the stillness after time, in the hush beyond stars, you let each possibility settle beside you, like stones placed carefully on the surface of a quiet pond. Loop, bounce, freeze, bloom. You realize what matters most isn't which theory wins, but the simple human act of asking, of imagining where the edge might be, and wondering what lives just beyond it. Because perhaps the universe doesn't end with a bang, or a freeze, or a fold. Perhaps it ends with a question, or perhaps it doesn't end at all, just transforms so slowly that we call it silence. And in that silence, you feel a soft stirring, not movement, but anticipation, a faint sense that beneath even the stillest ground, some seeds are always waiting. You lean into that feeling, and it leads you gently toward the next mystery, one not about space or time, but about what watches all of it unfold. You are far from now, so far that stars are only a memory, their glow long since swallowed by time. Galaxies once strung like necklaces across the sky are now invisible, not gone, floating in the long dusk of everything. There is no urgency, no ticking clock. Time has grown soft, not gone, but no longer counting. And in this great quiet, not of faces or forms, but of feeling, gentle, ancient, whole, you look back, not with eyes, but with a kind of remembering, like watching your own footprints disappear behind you in the snow. You see the moment, just full and beautiful. You watch the galaxies move apart like drifting lanterns, each one its own little memory, glowing for a time, then vanishing into the dark. There is no edge, no border to this night, just the soft unraveling of heat, thinning of matter, the stretch of space so wide it forgets how to return the stars. The last red dwarfs burned low and slow, tiny hearts pulsing for trillions of years before finally winking out, leaving behind only the whisper of their warmth. Black holes, too, have sighed their last. Gravity, keepers of secrets and endings. But even they could not last forever, until even the darkest places grew lightless. Now only fragments remain, dust without heat, photons stretched so thin they no longer touch anything. But even this absence, holds its own kind of grace, because here, in the final breath of time, you begin to feel something deeper, not movement, not thought, but peace. Everything that once was, from atoms to oceans, from comets to questions, it all belonged. Every moment mattered, not because it lasted, but because it shimmered, even if only once. You remember Earth, its quiet blue, turning in the dark, its sky full of stories, its ground full of music. You remember the feeling of light on skin. So many questions. What is time? What is space? What are we? And now, from this long view, you see how even the asking was sacred. Life, that brief, luminous thread, wove something into the cosmos that was never there before. Awareness, wonder, the ability to step back and see the dance unfold. Even now, there is nothing left to watch. But you remember what it meant to see. The universe did not need meaning, but it made space for it. And in that space, you bloomed. So now as you float in the cool vastness, you do not grieve. You listen to the silence that holds every sound, to the dark that remembers every flicker of flame. And the silence is not empty. It is full of what has been, but is a kind of final stillness, a settling of everything into itself. The story of the universe was never one of loss. It was always a release, from pressure, from heat, from time, a letting go. And in that letting go, you feel yourself open. Dawn. The light that once formed you now spreads into the dark. You and it. No division, no distance, only being. You were stardust once, then breath. The still water after the ripple fades, the warmth that lingers long after the fire has gone. And in this final calm, you wonder, not with urgency, but with openness, if this is peace, could something else come after? Not return, not memory, but something new, something beyond light, beyond time, something that begins where endings become soil. You rest with that wondering, a seed waiting to bloom. You drift back, not in space, but in memory. The universe is dark now, mostly. Quiet in a way that feels complete, but faintly stretched across the deep sky like a translucent blanket. A whisper remains. The afterglow. Not the brightness of stars, not the flicker of fire. It is older, gentler, a glow that hums just above silence. This is the cosmic microwave background, the echo of the Big Bang. Not a bang like thunder, but a blossoming, a sudden, expansive unfolding from something so small into something so vast it could cradle everything. That first flash, too hot and bright to hold, cooled over billions of years until it became this, a faint microwave hum filling all of space. Even now, and you, here, in the long twilight of everything, you still feel it, not as sound, not as warmth on your skin, but as presence, a texture to space itself. Like the echo of a lullaby you never quite learned, but somehow know. You listen, and in listening, you remember. There was a time, long ago, when the universe was so hot, so dense, that nothing could settle. Photons bounced endlessly, trapped in a storm of particles. Their paths tangled like wind in tall grass, but then came the cooling, the letting go. The moment atoms could finally form, and light, for the first time, was free to travel. That light, now cooled to microwaves, has been drifting ever since. A ghost of the beginning, stretched thin by the expansion of space, carrying with it a story older than stars. You float through that story now. It surrounds you, not as a wall, but as a womb, a memory the universe keeps in every direction. Scientists once mapped it, watching the slight fluctuations in its warmth, like freckles on the skin of the cosmos. Those tiny differences told of things to come, where galaxies would gather, where stars would be born, where life might someday ask why. It was all there, in that faint shimmer, the seeds of everything. And now, as the universe stretches and cools further, even this whisper begins to fade, its temperature, one slow breath at a time. There will come a moment, not tomorrow, not next century, but far, far ahead, when even this light will be too faint to detect. That such a fragile thing could last so long, that the first light still holds you, even as the last lights blink away. You float in this knowing, not heavy, not sad, just aware. The echo wraps around you like a shawl. It asks for nothing. Even now, even here, in the long rest after the stars, you can feel that initial hush, cooling gently across the fabric of space. It does not matter that no one speaks. The story remains, and in that there is comfort, because if light can linger for this long, if heat can hum across billions of years, then perhaps nothing is truly lost. Not the stars, not the voices, not even the questions. You listen deeper, not to find something new, but to feel the quiet grow wider. The last particle of radiation will stretch so far that it fades beyond memory, and still something will remain. A stillness full of what once was, a silence shaped by all the sounds that came before. You think of lullabies sung long after the child has slept, of echoes fading not because they were forgotten, but because they were answered. The cosmic microwave background was the universe's first word. Now you listen to its last whisper, not with longing, but with wonder, and as it fades, you wonder, what else might remain in the silence that follows? What other echoes, softer still, might rise once this one falls? What else waits in the quiet, carried gently from before the beginning, into the soft hush of stretched space, and yet not even time in the way you once knew it? Something smaller, something colder, something impossibly light and impossibly present, a neutrino. It slips through you as if you aren't there, and then another and another. You do not feel them, but they pass like sighs through a dream. They are everywhere. They always have been, and now, in the fading breath of a universe grown old, they may be all that's left in motion. Neutrinos are the ghosts of matter, born in stars, in explosions, in the first hot seconds of existence. They've been drifting ever since, not stopped by planets. They move through everything, walls, oceans, your body, as if all solidity is just suggestion. Billions pass through you every second, but now, in this distant future, they are no longer just many. They are nearly alone. They outlast the light, outrun the radiation. They carry no charge, almost no mass, but they carry history. Each one is a silent witness, unfolding its path through space like a thread of invisible silk. You follow. There is no rush. There is no friction. The universe is so empty now, it feels like thought. But neutrinos are not thoughts. They are particles, real, though barely so. They do not cling to the past. They do not chase the future. They simply move, and you drift with them like mist in a current you cannot see. They come in flavors, as physicists once said, and they change. Like shadows, shifting under a setting sun, this changing, this flavored dance was one of the universe's secrets. It puzzled minds and humbled instruments. But now, in the soft chill of nearly nothing, there is no one left to be puzzled. Only the neutrinos remain, spinning their quiet choreography through the ever-widening dark. You float beside them, or not. Perhaps they will one day decay, giving their last faint whisper to the void. But for now, they move on, untouched, untroubled. They carry no light, no warmth, no sound, and yet they are not nothing. They are motion. They are persistence. They are memory without memory. You wonder, gently, what it means to move forever and feel nothing. What it means to be a trace of presence that refuses to stop you. Pass a silence so deep it feels like the pause between heartbeats, except the heart stopped long ago. Still, the neutrinos go on. They do not seek. They do not build. They do not destroy. They simply exist, thin as breath on glass, light as the spaces between thoughts. You think of stories, not the kind written down. Those are gone, but the kind carried by being. The way a tree tells a story in its rings. The way a child's handprint on a wall remembers warmth. Neutrinos carry no words, but their journey is a story. One written not in meaning, but in motion. Each one is a line across the universe, drawn without a beginning or end. You wonder if they notice when they pass one another. Do they sense company, however brief, or is their solitude so complete? Even near misses are silent. You do not know. You do not need to, because here, drifting beside them, you understand something deeper, that the universe, even in its slowest hour, has not truly stopped. It has thinned, it has cooled, it has grown, quiet beyond measure. But in this quiet, something still moves, and maybe that is enough. Maybe the story doesn't need a final word. Maybe it continues as a thread that never frays, spinning further into what comes after. You and the neutrinos, no longer so different. You, too, are light. You, too, pass through things. You, too, remember without needing to speak. And now, as you move onward, you feel a new kind of wonder stir. Not the kind that seeks, but the kind that simply opens, like a window to something vast and still becoming. Because even now, with nearly everything gone, something remains, and somewhere, far ahead, or perhaps deep within, a question waits in the silence. What lies beyond the last motion? What dream, what breath, what shape will rise from this final drift? You drift toward warmth, not heat, not brilliance, but something gentler, a low, steady ember in the fabric of cold space, a red dwarf, one of the last dot. All the grand stars are gone now. The blue giants that once screamed their brightness into galaxies vanished. The yellow suns that lit skies and warmed ancient oceans extinguished. What remains are the quiet ones, the patient ones, the stars that never hurried. Float near one, slow as breath. It doesn't flare, it doesn't pulse, it simply glows, a soft, reddish pulse in the dark. Not so much a light to see by, as a presence you can feel. Like the warmth of a candle 3 rooms away, or the memory of fire long after it's gone. Out. Red dwarfs are the smallest of stars, but they are also the longest living. Their lives stretch into trillions, even quadrillions of years. They burn their hydrogen slowly, carefully, never wasteful. They sip rather than swallow, and so they last. This one, before you now, has already lived longer than any Earth ever did. It has seen galaxies drift apart, watched the light of others fade into silence, and still it burns, not brightly, not proudly, but endlessly. You float closer, drawn by its hush. Its surface is mottled, dark in patches, not from chaos, but from calm. No great storms, no violent flares, just convection, slow churning, like soup stirred in sleep. Its glow is not enough to warm planets. Its planets, if any remain, are likely cold and still, locked in a night that never ends. But the star remains, and in its quiet light, you feel something like time unfolding, not ticking, just stretching, like fabric eased between fingers. You recall, in the early universe, stars were fast and hungry. They lived bright, died young. They gave birth to heavy elements in violent death, supernova echoing across cosmic time. Those elements made you, but red dwarfs are different. They do not die with explosions. They do not scatter gold or iron into space. They fade, they dim, they cool from red to blue to black. A black dwarf, a star that has gone to sleep. None exist yet. The universe is too young for even one. But in this future, this echo of what may come, you see the path. These stars will burn for trillions of years, long after everything else has gone quiet, and you wonder what will remain to see them. You imagine civilizations so patient, so enduring, that red dwarfs are not the end, but the beginning. You imagine hibernating minds, resting through the cold eras, waking only now and then, like tide pool creatures, waiting for the moon. You imagine a child, born beside such a star, never knowing a sky of blue, never seeing a bright noon, but still smiling beneath a red dawn, because light, however soft, still means presence, and presence still means life, even if only memory. You curl near the dwarf, as if by a campfire, long after the others have gone to sleep. There is no sound but the slow churn of plasma, no light but the dim glow against your closed eyes. And yet it feels like comfort. It reminds you that endurance is a kind of grace. These stars ask for nothing. They consume what they have carefully, fully, slowly, and they give back light for longer than any age you've known. You think of time differently here, not as a ticking clock, but as a tide that rises so slowly you only notice it by how far you've come. You begin to see what it means for a star to burn for 1,000,000,000,000 years, not in moments, but in silence. And when its fuel finally runs dry, when hydrogen becomes helium, and helium refuses to fuse, it will not rage, it will cool, it will dim, it will settle. Its atoms will arrange into crystalline form, a white dwarf turned black, a sphere of carbon and oxygen, quiet and cold, like a diamond with no one left to wear it. These black dwarfs, they too, are only future, but this red dwarf before you holds their promise. It is not a monument. It is not a relic. It is the present, in a time so far from yours that stars no longer rise or fall. They simply wait, and so do you. Time here is not heavy, it's soft. It leans gently on your shoulders, like a shawl at dusk. You breathe it. In you, let it carry you. This moment stretches, not long, but wide, and in it, you feel something not quite hope, but peace. Even in a universe that grows colder, emptier, quieter, there is still warmth, and that warmth is enough. It reminds you that not all ends are loud. Some arrive slowly, like nightfall on a gentle hill, and in that softness, something endures. You drift once more, leaving the red dwarf to its patient burning. It will still be there, long after you go, still whispering heat into the dark, still telling time, not in seconds, but in silence. And as you drift onward, you begin to wonder what comes after even this, when the last stars fade. What holds their memory? What carries the ember when the fire is gone? You feel that question stir inside you, light as dust, and just as endless. You drift through a space so empty, it feels like the pause between thoughts. There are no stars nearby now, no planets, only dustless dark and the hush of what used to be. This is not the cold of winter or shadow, but the cold of time itself, long after warmth has forgotten its name. You float in stillness, and the universe no longer grows or shrinks. It simply is. And yet, deep within this quiet, a new kind of change is unfolding, slower than any clock could ever measure. A secret unraveling. The atoms, those ancient keepers of matter, begin to loosen their hold, not in fear, not in haste, but softly, like hands releasing hands after a long embrace. You imagine one, a single proton, sitting at the heart of a hydrogen atom. It's been here since the beginning, born from the searing brightness after the Big Bang, surviving stars, galaxies, gravity. For trillions upon trillions of years, it has held firm. But protons are not eternal. At least, that's what some theories suggest. Physicists dream of grand, unified theories, elegant equations that stitch together the known forces of nature. And in those dreams, protons are not forever. They are long-lived, yes, but in the fullness of time, they decay. Imagine it, one proton after 10 trillion years, just letting go. It does not explode, it does not scream, it becomes something else, lighter particles slipping into the emptiness. It is not a death, it is a release, and then another and another, scattered across the cosmos like snow melting in spring. A rock becomes dust. Dust becomes nothing. Not because it is destroyed, but because the pieces that once clung together no longer remember how. You look at your hands, or the memory of them, and wonder what it means for something to dissolve. Not disappear, but become too soft to stay. This is not a violent end. No bang, no collapse. Just the gentle untangling of matter's deepest threads. Even the neutron, that quiet twin of the proton, fades away outside the embrace of an atom. Only the most elusive things, neutrinos, perhaps, drift on. You remember the worlds that once were, planets with names and colors, mountains that stood tall for eons, cities, seas, sunlight on water, all of it built on protons, these tiny anchors of reality. And now they vanish, one by one, like the fading notes of a lullaby you once knew. Nothing dramatic, just slow forgetting. And with that forgetting, the shapes of things are lost. No more molecules, no more structures, just particles, moving without memory, without bonds. You float through this ghostland of former substance, where solidness itself has become a myth. And yet you feel no fear, only wonder. What is a universe without matter? And within it, the last traces of matter scatter into nothingness. But even now, something stirs, not matter, not light, perhaps possibility, perhaps the memory of form, or perhaps just the question. Because if protons, once thought immortal, can decay, then permanence itself becomes a softer idea. And with it, a freedom. You are no longer held together. You are no longer a boundary. You are no longer a shape. You are part of the dissolution. And still, you remain, not as structure, but as awareness, as presence without edges. The decay continues, not across centuries, but across eternities. All the universe becomes a mist of fading particles, drifting without resistance, without mass. And yet, somewhere in that quiet fog, a whisper lingers, not sound, not voice, but the potential for both. Because even when the protons are gone, space remains. Time, stretched thin but present, still gives room for possibility. And you, a traveler who began in the warmth of stars, now float in the coolness of absence. You do not need form to wonder. And as the last proton forgets itself, and matter steps into memory, you find yourself thinking, not of what has faded, but of what comes after. If even solidity must vanish, what is the next language of the universe? Is it motion without mass, vibration without structure, thought without body? You do not know, but you are still listening, still feeling, still here and far ahead. Beyond even this ending, a flicker waits. You turn gently toward it, drawn not by light, but by the softest idea that perhaps, in the unshaped void, something new is beginning to hum. The stars are gone now. They burned for billions, even trillions of years. Some bright, some slow, some trembling on the edge of collapse, but all of them have gone quiet, not in anger, not in sorrow, just finished now. Darkness stretches uninterrupted. Not a darkness waiting to be lit, but a darkness that is whole in itself. You drift through it, not falling, not rising, simply moving like a breath too soft to stir a flame. There are no shadows here, because there is no light. This is the cold black era. Long ago, galaxies dissolved, stars dimmed and died, their remnants fading or folding inward. Only black holes remain, vast, ancient, silent. They are the last giants, slowly evaporating through whispers of Hawking radiation, so faint it takes longer than thought to measure. You pass one, not close, but close enough to feel its presence, a weight in space, like a memory you haven't thought of in years, but still recognize. It doesn't pull you, it doesn't reach, it simply waits, and it too will go. Not quickly, not loudly, but eventually it will release its final flicker of heat, fade, and be gone. The universe is no longer a place of fire and fusion. It is no longer shaped by stars or sculpted by light. It has become quiet. Particles still move, lone electrons, a few neutrinos drifting through open space. They are scattered like dust after a celebration, like confetti from a party that ended eons ago. They do not remember what they once built. Atoms, bodies, worlds. Now they are just themselves. There is no rush. Everything is slow. Even decay feels still, and you are still here. You do not feel cold, because cold is measured against warmth. And here there is no contrast, just the even hush of equilibrium. Everything has let go. You think of sleep, not the restless kind, but the deep, wordless kind that comes only when nothing is left undone. This universe is sleeping, and in that sleep there is peace. The black holes continue to shrink. Every so often they sigh, a puff of particles escaping into the void. Each breath takes eons, and each breath makes them smaller. They are not in pain. They are not resisting. They are completing. You drift beside one now, a black hole so old it predates memory, its mass whispering into space. It radiates more slowly than a tree loses leaves. But still, the leaves fall. One day, even this will vanish. There will be no more black holes, no more structure, only particles, scattered and spread thin across a canvas that never ends. It is strange. You think this calmness, it doesn't feel like destruction. It feels like return to simplicity, return to rest, return to the place before things began to gather. No gravity pulling you into orbit, no stars pulling you into time, just stillness. And stillness has its own kind of music. You listen, not for sound, but for rhythm, for the soft beat of existence, carried forward not by motion, but by presence, and it is there, faint but clear. The universe is not over. It is quiet, but not empty. There is space, there is possibility, there is time. Though it no longer ticks, there is you, drifting, witnessing, becoming part of the dark, not by vanishing, but by merging. And that thought strangely feels. Full dot, you think of a pond in winter, frozen still, but beneath the ice, water waits. You do not know what comes next. But you know something always does. Even the coldest night is only one part of the cycle. Perhaps there will be no more stars. Perhaps there will be no more matter. But something may still bloom in the dark. You feel it, not as a shape, but as a question. A soft, wide question, stretching quietly across the end of time. What breath might follow the longest silence? There is no light above you, no stars, no warmth, no galaxies glowing in distant arms. And yet the darkness is not as empty as it seems, not completely. There is something beneath it, something quiet, something restless. You float now, not through space, but within it, inside the fabric itself. You are drifting deeper than depth, past time, past distance, to the smallest places there are. Down here, stillness is an illusion. Space, even stripped of stars and substance, still trembles. At this scale, smaller than atoms, smaller than protons, there is no silence. There is only shimmer. It is called quantum foam, and it is not truly foam, not as you know it. There are no bubbles you can touch, no edges you can trace. But the name tries to describe the flickering chaos that stirs at the bottom of reality. Tiny fluctuations, energy appearing and vanishing, particles blinking into being, then fading again. Here for a moment, gone the next. A sea of almost somethings. You imagine it like fireflies, thousands, millions, brief bursts of light in a forest at night. They flash and vanish, not in pattern, but in presence. No two exactly alike, none staying long. This is the lowest hum of the universe, a field of endless maybes. Even now, when everything else has quieted, this background flicker continues. It cannot stop. It is built into the nature of reality. It is the nature of reality. You are not watching from above. You are inside it. You feel it like a breeze inside a dream, a constant, invisible movement. It brushes against you softly. It is not cold, not warm, but alive. Down here, time becomes uncertain. Moments smear together. Distances collapse. There is no solid ground, only motion, endless, flickering motion. One moment, a pair of particles flick into being. Then, as quickly, they annihilate each other. A perfect balance. A flare and a fade. A rise and a fall. This happens everywhere. All at once, and always. The particles are called virtual. Not because they are imaginary, but because they are fleeting ghosts of matter that never fully arrive. And yet, they leave a trace. They tug gently on space. They shift the energy of nothing. They echo softly on the universe's most quiet shore. You realize now this isn't a place where things happen. It is a place where the possibility of happening remains, even when all else has gone, even when time has stretched thin and matter has dissolved and the stars are silent. There is still this, a bubbling at the root, an itch beneath the skin of existence, a flicker no darkness can erase. You drift deeper, and you begin to wonder, could this be a beginning to, if the universe still flickers, can it still dream? Some scientists believe these tiny quantum flickers might, on rare occasions, give birth to something greater. Not often, not soon, but given enough time, enough quiet, a fluctuation could swell, gather energy, and burst, not into flame, not into light, but into space itself, a new universe, born not from collision or intention, but from this quiet foam, from this restless. You rest there, in the heart of uncertainty, and something inside you smiles, because even here, in the final flickers, nothing is truly lost. Everything shifts, everything echoes, and in every echo, a whisper of what could be. You feel it again, not a voice, but an opening, a sense that even now, there might be a way forward or a way back, and that quiet question, that soft shimmer, leads you gently onward, toward what waits beyond the flicker. You are floating in the dark again, not the night sky dark, scattered with stars. This is deeper, quieter, a velvet absence. The stars have all gone out. The last particles have stretched far apart, like whispers forgetting themselves. And yet, even here, something stirs. Not a galaxy, not a world, not anything you would call alive, but a thought, a strange, lonely thought. It isn't born from cells or fire. It isn't grown. It simply appears. This is the realm of Boltzmann brains. You imagine it gently, a single brain, complete, suspended in the stillness, appearing out of pure chance. No body, no planet, just thought, wrapped in itself, brief, bright, and bewildered, like a candle lit for no one in a room that does not exist. You may wonder, how, why? The universe, even in its coldest silence, is never truly still. Particles still flicker, energy still fluctuates, and with enough time, with infinite time, even the strangest possibilities unfold. Imagine a dice rolled, not once, but forever. Eventually, anything can happen, even something as rare, as wildly improbable as a brain, a structure complex enough to think, to remember, to wonder. It might remember a life it never lived. It might think it had eyes, hands, a past. It might think it was you. That's the strange part. This fleeting brain, this momentary mind, could awaken with your memories, with your voice, your questions. You're wondering about how it all ends, and then it fades, just as quickly as it formed. A ripple in the void, a firefly in a universe long. Night, you might ask. Was it real? Does it matter? In the deep quiet of thermodynamic entropy, what counts as real? What counts as you? There is no malice in this idea. It's not meant to unsettle. It is simply one more way the universe plays with possibility. You float beside the thought, not inside it, not apart from it. You watch it bloom, then vanish, and you reflect what is a brain, really, a structure, a pattern of matter arranged in such a way that it can think and feel and know itself. If the arrangement can arise, even once, then maybe it can arise again, not just in biology, but in the randomness of deep time. You drift through probabilities now, not events, but ideas. The possibility of consciousness in a cosmos with no form left to hold it. The Boltzmann brain is not a prophecy. It's not even a prediction. It's a question. What if, in the far future, the last thing the universe remembers is a thought? What if you, or something that thinks it is you, blinks into being just to wonder why? There is a strange gentleness in this. Not fear, not despair, just awe at the persistence of pattern, at the way thought might rise, for no reason at all, from the ocean of nothing, and then fall away again, like a single note in a symphony. No, one hears, you are still floating. No edge, no anchor. Just this quiet trail of ideas stretching out through endless dark. even if Boltzmann brains never form. The idea of them reminds you consciousness is delicate, precious, temporary. It does not require stars. It does not even require a world. Only the right arrangement of matter, the right conditions, and enough time, maybe, somewhere in the forever horizon. Another spark flickers, not a brain, not even thought, but something. Beginning, a rhythm, perhaps a curve, a breath. You can't see it, not yet, but your mind, your drifting, curious mind, is drawn toward it, because even in the coldest dark, even among the dust of endings, there is always one more possibility, one more echo to follow, one more shimmer to listen for, and perhaps that shimmer leads to a beginning that isn't quite a beginning, something smaller, something stranger, something infinite in its stillness, like the dream of a vacuum that starts to hum. You exhale, and the warmth leaves you slowly, not lost, just released. It spreads out, diffusing into the quiet air, where it will never return in quite the same way. That, you realize, is entropy. Not chaos, not violence, just a gradual easing, a soft exhalation of order. The universe is not unraveling in panic. It is relaxing. From the moment the cosmos was born, energy has been moving from hot to cold, from clustered to scattered, from sharp peaks to flat plains, like water finding its level, like tension unwinding into rest. And you are woven into this flow. Entropy is the deep rhythm beneath everything, the reason stars shine and why they eventually dim. It is why heat moves outward, why mountains crumble, why memories fade. But none of this is wrong. It's not a flaw. It's not a loss. Entropy is the art of letting go, written into the fabric of time. You imagine a cup of hot tea left on a windowsill. Steam rises, heat seeps out into the air, not because the cup is broken, but because it is connected to the air, to the room, to everything. That's all entropy is, connection. A slow and natural blending of things that once were separate. Every star burns down, not in grief, but in offering. Its light is a gift, a beautiful waste that warms what it will never see, and even you, in your small motions, participate in this quiet surrender. Each step you take, each breath you release, each thought you let go. Entropy accompanies you like a calm, constant companion. It's not something to fight, it's something to understand, to walk with you. Imagine your own body, once bright with energy, cooling over time, not vanishing, but transforming. Your warmth given back to the world that held you. The atoms that form you do not mourn their parting. They simply drift on to their next moment, their next arrangement, their next dance. Entropy is not the end of structure. It's the flow of structure, from one temporary shape to another. Like wind moving through tall grass, the beauty of a sandcastle is not in its permanence. It's in the way it invites the tide and still, somehow, remains beautiful. You begin to see entropy not as erasure, but as evolution. It doesn't erase stories. It recycles their syllables. It doesn't end life. It prepares the space for what comes next. There is a softness to this truth, a kindness, because if nothing could let go, nothing new could ever begin. Entropy makes space. It clears the way. It breaks down the old, not to destroy, but to allow something different to arise. And when the universe grows quiet, as it slowly is, when the stars flicker out and matter spreads thin, even then, entropy is still there, not rushing, not judging, just gently continuing its patient work of balancing. You think of the warmth left behind by ancient stars, now stretched thin across the cold sky. It is still there. Diminished, yes, but never erased. Nothing is truly lost. Not in a universe where everything merely changes form. Even your thoughts, those quiet ripples of energy, leave traces. Faint, perhaps, but real. You may not remember every moment, but the universe does, not in words or images, but in changes, in rearrangements, in soft shifts in the pattern. And that's enough. You begin to let go, of the need to hold, to fix, to preserve forever. You begin to trust that even in dispersal, there is meaning. Even in dissolution, there is grace. Entropy is not the enemy of being. It is the shape of becoming. You watch a leaf fall, not with sorrow, but with reverence. Its descent is not collapse. It is surrender to the wind, to the cycle, to the larger rhythm you are still learning to hear. You understand now, letting go is not failure. It is nature and the universe in its great unfolding. Lets go of everything, gently, slowly, beautifully. It releases stars into light. It releases heat into space. It releases you into time. And perhaps, in that act of release, there is a kind of peace you've always been looking for. You float a while longer, feeling your thoughts loosen, feeling your form dissolve just slightly into the quiet that surrounds you. And in that hush, you sense something else emerging, not matter, not energy, but something stranger, something more fundamental. You have grown used to the quiet language of the cosmos, gravity humming gently beneath your feet, light bending patiently through glassy curves, time ticking steadily forward like a soft heartbeat. But what if, one day, even those rhythms begin to stutter? What if the laws you trust, the invisible scaffolding that holds everything together, begin to relax their grip? Imagine the speed of light falters, no longer strict, no longer sacred. The fine structure constant, that delicate thread that weaves together electricity and magnetism loosens by the tiniest degree, and suddenly atoms no longer know quite how to hold themselves. Light no longer knows quite how to bend. Universe has always danced to the pulse of these constants, like a ballet of unwavering steps. But even the most practiced dancers grow tired in this far future place, long after the stars have cooled, long after the last proton has sighed into dissolution. You begin to drift through a stranger kind of silence. It is not cold. It is not cruel. It is simply unfamiliar. You reach for a pattern, and it slips. You call out to symmetry, and it echoes back as possibility. It's not that the rules are broken. It's that they are fading. Like handwriting left too long in the rain. In this silence, the fabric of space itself may fray. The vacuum is no longer steady. Its fields no longer resting in balance. Virtual particles flicker, but their dance loses its tempo, and time, once a dependable river, flowing in one direction, now pools. It eddies, hesitates, even drifts backward in places. You sense moments overlapping. You step through one, and find yourself unchanged, but unsure. Is this what it feels like when the laws no longer hold? Once you believed the universe to be carved in stone, precise, mathematical, eternal. But now you see it more like ice under a morning sun, structured, but melting, defined, but dissolving, not failing, just softening into something new. It doesn't frighten you. Instead, it humbles. You are a guest in a house that is still dreaming of itself. A whisper inside a whisper. And in this fluid cosmos, you begin to wonder, were the laws ever truly fixed? Or were they simply the best rhythm the universe could manage at the time? After all, change is the oldest truth. From the first fluctuation in the vacuum to the birth of galaxies, from the fire of stars to the quiet of entropy, change has never stopped. Perhaps the laws, too, are expressions of a changing universe. Not commandments, but customs. Not pillars, but tides. You look around and see what remains. Subtle ripples, echoes of structure. Reminders that this universe was once a place of elegance and clarity, but now it is a place of dreaming. Even mathematics begins to shimmer, not as strict formula, but as suggestion. Curves stretch where they once snapped, limits blur where they once held firm, and in that blur, a strange beauty appears, not the clean, crisp beauty of a snowflake, but the soft, dissolving beauty of mist on a lake at dawn. You think of sound, how even music ends, not in silence, but in the fading vibration of its last note. A ringing that lingers long after the string has stilled. The universe, too, may end not with a bang, nor even a whimper, but with a shimmer, a sigh, a dissolving, and yet you wonder what stirs beneath this dissolving. What hum remains beneath the unraveling symphony? Some physicists have dreamed of a final theory, a last, complete set of laws to explain everything. But perhaps that dream was too rigid, too certain. Perhaps the true final state of the cosmos is not a rule book, but a silence, not a conclusion, but an invitation, because even in this place, where light is tired and time forgets, you are still aware. You are still listening, and maybe awareness itself does not need rules. Maybe it arises not in defiance of uncertainty, but because of it. Perhaps thought is what flickers when laws go quiet. Perhaps curiosity is the spark that glows in the silence between the laws. So you sit there, floating, surrounded by a universe that no longer insists on answers, and in that space, a question forms. Not loud, not urgent, just gentle. What remains when nothing is required to remain? You follow that thought, not with logic, but with presence, and as you drift deeper into the lawless quiet, you sense the beginning of something else. Not structure, not order, but something more subtle, more playful, more possible. A hidden balance, waiting beyond the known. A silence that listens back, and somewhere within it, something stirs. You are adrift again, in the great hush. No stars, no time, just space. But here, something stirs beneath the silence. Not motion, exactly. Not light. A deeper kind of tension, like a story forgotten mid-sentence. You turn toward it, not with your eyes, but with something quieter inside you. A listening, yes, a place where falling never ends. You feel its pull, not just on your imagined body, but on your questions. It tugs at the edges of your certainty, as if asking, what do you truly know? You hover near its event horizon, that quiet, velvet rim, the point of no return. Beyond it, no light escapes, but more strangely, perhaps, no information comes back. The same dot in physics, there is a rule, information, the exact blueprint of particles and energy. How they are arranged, how they evolve, cannot be destroyed. Drop a book into a fire, and though the pages vanish, the atoms remain. Scatter the ashes, and in theory, with enough care, you could put the book back together. But black holes are different. They eat, not just matter, but detail. They absorb stars, photons, planets, people, and they keep the secrets. You watch as a theoretical star spirals in slow, then faster, until its surface stretches and time distorts, until finally it is gone. To you, it seems to freeze at the edge. The star forgets itself, compressed beyond meaning. What happens next is where the paradox lives. Does the black hole keep the information like a cosmic library behind locked doors? Or is it truly lost, its pattern erased, its story untold? Stephen Hawking once believed black holes destroy information. Then he changed his mind. Then the physics community argued, and they are still arguing, because the universe, it seems, refuses to give a clear answer. You imagine the surface of the black hole not as a wall, but as a membrane of whispers. Perhaps it records what falls in, not in words, but in subtle vibrations, tiny quivers on its horizon. This idea has a name, the holographic principle. It suggests that all the information inside the black hole is encoded on its surface. Gently, like a feather in orbit, you imagine your own memories pressed into that horizon, flattened into the thinnest possible script, and then, perhaps, as the black hole evaporates, slowly radiating away in Hawking radiation, one particle at a time, those whispers are released again like a message in code. But even that answer comes with questions. Can the code be read, or is it scrambled beyond repair? If the information is never truly gone, but never recoverable, is that the same as death? You pause here, not to fear, but to feel the weight of the question, because you are made of information, too, not just atoms, but arrangements, patterns, the shape of thought, the sequence of memory, the choreography of cells. If a black hole could swallow you, would it forget you? Or would it carry your essence in some strange, unreadable whisper across the surface of the void? And if it radiates you back, bit by bit, particle by particle, is it still you, or just the echo? Information, like energy, shifts, transforms. You begin to see that loss may be just another form of translation. You think of music again, how a melody lives, not just in the notes, but in the spaces between. If you erase the notes, do the spaces still hum? You drift farther, not away from the black hole, but into the idea of forgetting. What if the universe forgets itself? What if, one day, there are no more observers, no more records, no more patterns held? Does the universe still know itself when no one remembers? Or is the memory held in its very structure, like the grain in old wood, like ripples in a frozen pond? Information is not just what things are, it is how they change. It is the relationship between now and the next now, and you are part of that continuity. Even here, in the imagined quiet, you are thinking, and thought, too, is information, a flicker of awareness, permanence, but attention, not storage, but presence. You glance once more at the black hole's edge. It waits there, unchanged, a riddle in stillness. It will eventually fade. Black holes evaporate, slowly, across unimaginable spans of time. Even they are not eternal. Even they let go, And when the last one is gone, when all the information of the universe has been scattered, encoded, transformed, blurred beyond recognition, what then? Is that the end of meaning, or just the next transformation? You do not know, but you feel something deep, quiet, settling into your thoughts like dust. Maybe forgetting is not failure. Maybe it is another way of changing, another way the universe practices release. Only shape, retreat, the soft, slow fading of the universe into stillness. But still, there is geometry. You notice it first. This point is not that one. That curve bends away, even when there is nothing to bend. Imagine a crystal with no atoms, a web with no thread, a map with no terrain, only the structure of space itself, a ghost of what once was. You reach for a metaphor, and one arrives gently, a snowflake melted on your hand, its shape imprinted in the chill, even after the ice is gone. This is how the universe persists now, in patterns, in scaffolds of emptiness. Mathematicians call this the vacuum geometry. Even in the absence of all substance, space-time curves, it holds a form, a potential, a whisper of once was. You trace those curves with your mind, soft spirals, nested symmetries, paths that cross but never touch. And here, in the gentle hush, you feel the strange comfort of abstraction, because shape does not need presence. Form can be quiet. It can hum without voice. Where particles are rare and scattered, you move through a geometry that outlasts its contents. The furniture of the universe may be gone, but the room still remembers its shape. And as you float through this invisible cathedral, did space itself dream these forms before anything filled them? Quantum gravity, that mysterious, unfinished theory meant to unite the large with the small, suggests something astonishing. Perhaps space is not a smooth field, but a network, a lattice, a looped web woven from pure relation. No bricks, a node here, a node there, linked like threads in a dream. The universe, not as a stage, but as a script written in pure structure. You don't need to solve the equations. You only need to feel the idea. This late in cosmic time, when all lights have dimmed, when information has unraveled, what remains may be this hidden scaffolding, a final architecture of the void, like the ribcage of a long-vanished star, like the outline of a memory you no longer recall, but still feel in your chest. You are not lost in this nothing. You are supported by it, cradled in shape, held in a net woven from absence. Even here, the geometry breathes. Tiny fluctuations ripple through it, not particles, but potential. Virtual thoughts of being, never quite arriving, but never quite gone. You float through these quiet quivers, the foam beneath the stillness. They do not disturb you. They are the last echoes of what space-time knows how to do. Vibrate, curve, stretch, relax. You close your eyes. Even in your imagination, the shapes remain. Symmetries etched into nothing, angles drawn in the dark, but through contour. And you wonder now, if nothing can be truly empty, if even nothing holds shape, then maybe ending is not erasure. Maybe it is a refinement, a peeling away, until only essence is left, form without force, space without need. A kind of cosmic haiku, and perhaps, just perhaps, not from noise, but from balance, as if the last gesture of reality is not collapse, but poise. You linger here, There is nowhere else to be. The shapes do not ask for anything. They do not break. They echo the beginning in stillness, in breath, in unspoken rhythm. And now, as your awareness relaxes into these final forms, you feel a shift, not a movement, but a question. What lies beyond form itself, beyond geometry, beyond the patterned bones of space? A rest that forgets even the need to hold anything at all. You listen for it now. The next pause, the next possibility, the idea that waits behind the architecture, the idea of true nothing. You drift now on the edge of silence, of everything familiar. No stars, no atoms. The ruins of matter, the silence between laws, the quiet architecture of space itself. And now, you hover near something unspoken in the language of quantum mechanics. There's a curious idea, not a collapse, but a tunnel. Particles sometimes do the impossible. They pass through walls, not by breaking them, but by sidestepping them entirely, vanishing here and appearing there, as though reality offers shortcuts when no one's watching. It's called quantum tunneling, and perhaps the universe itself can tunnel to not forward in time, but sideways, out of this vast, fading sea. So small, so sudden, so still, inside, a new universe. Hot, bright, infant, a single quantum fluctuation, cradled in the emptiness. You are watching a beginning that unfolds invisibly beside an ending. This is a baby universe, not born into ours, but born away from it, folded into its own space, its own time, its own laws. It tunnels through the quantum membrane just as a particle slips through a wall, and once through, it forgets us. It doesn't inherit our matter, our stars, our memories. It starts with nothing but energy and symmetry, and from there, its own story unfolds. Perhaps it will have gravity. Perhaps it will curl into spirals. Perhaps something will open its eyes one day and wonder, not about us, but about itself. You wonder, too, what role does this universe play in that one? Physics whispers that it's possible. In models of eternal inflation, this process may never stop, bubble after bubble, each with its own constants, its own rules, its own geometry of being. And just like that, the idea of finality dissolves. The stillness you feel now may not be a grave, but a chrysalis in the emptiness. A crack forms, not a wound, but an opening. This crack is not destruction. It is transition. It is the space between notes that makes music possible. You press closer to the edge, though edge no longer means what it used to. There are no coordinates here, no direction, only transitions, so soft you barely feel them happen. You imagine, could you be part of that tunneling? Not your body, not your thoughts, but the information you once carried, rearranged, forgotten, yet folded into the new. Maybe not as memory, but as rhythm. Maybe you echo there, in the balance of things. Exhale, the spark of a new one, and between them, whether anything there will ever ask where it came from. But uncertainty is not absence. Uncertainty is the door through which all creation walks. You feel this now, in your chest, in your bones, not as fear, but as possibility. Because if tunneling is real, if universes can be born from the decay of quiet space, then there is no true ending, only transformations hidden in stillness. You drift near this new horizon, this idea folding into itself, and you think perhaps beginnings never really stop. They only move further apart, each one its own dawn lit by the fading glow of another's dusk. You close your eyes, there is no rush now. The next chapter may be writing itself already on the inside of another bubble. You are still, you are here. And yet, you wonder if the cosmos can tunnel, can meaning tunnel to can purpose arise again, not carried over, but remade, in a place that remembers nothing, but dreams everything. And in that wondering, a new silence stirs. One not of absence, but of potential. Something is humming, not with sound, but with anticipation. Time begins, not with a clock, but with a change. A droplet falls, a leaf withers, a planet turns, a star cools. You drift now through a universe emptied of form, and yet time still breathes. There are no seconds here, no calendars, but you feel it, gently unfolding, a softness that moves forward, never back. It's not loud, like ticking. It's not sharp, like a countdown. Time, at its heart, is warmth fading from a cup. It's a memory dissolving like mist in physics, and forward compared to what? You are still floating in a quiet cosmos. Nothing rushes, nothing resists, but change still happens, slowly, inevitably. Entropy increases. That's the secret. Entropy, the quiet dispersal of order into disorder, the soft spreading out of energy, like perfume into a room. A shattered teacup never leaps back together. Heat leaves the body, not the other way around. A forest decays into soil, and that soil becomes something else entirely. Entropy is not chaos, it's the process of becoming many. A story moving from sharpness to blur, from tension to release, and entropy always flows in one direction. That is why time has an arrow, not because clocks demand it, not because our memories depend on it, but because energy prefers freedom to form. You look back in your mind, in the long memory of the universe, and see how it all began. The Big Bang was the lowest entropy moment ever known. Not because it was small or hot, but because it was simple. A single breath held tightly, a silence waiting to be broken. Since then, everything that's happened has been a long unfolding. Galaxies, stars, atoms, you, every memory you hold is a product of that unfolding. Even the very act of remembering is an arrow, a path worn into your mind by change. You only remember the past because entropy was lower there. The present is the direction where order becomes complexity, and complexity begins to dissolve. Even the way you dream follows this flow. The past feels fixed, the future remains a blur. But both are illusions, shaped by the slope of entropy. You breathe in, time continues. Even now, even here, though the stars have faded, though the temperature is low, the arrow still points forward. Black holes evaporate, particles decay, even the vacuum shifts. These are tiny, quiet changes, whispers in the dark, but they are enough. Time moves not by size, but by difference, and so the universe continues to age, not as a wound, but as a wave spreading across. Stillness. You imagine a leaf fallen long ago, its veins curling in the sun. At first, it was part of a tree, then it became part of the forest floor. Later, it fed the roots. Eventually, it was indistinguishable from soil. But each transformation, each shift, was time, not just decay, but passage, and in passage, a kind of quiet purpose. You are not separate from this. You are made of the same transitions. Your thoughts ride on time's slope, and your breath unfolds within its rhythm. The arrow of time, for you, is not just physical. It is emotional. You long for what is gone. You imagine what might be. You feel joy at moments that return only in memory. But why does time move at all? There is a question still open in physics. Is time fundamental? Or is it an emergent property, a side effect of how we measure change? Could time itself be a trick of entropies unfolding? Some theories say yes, that without change there is no time, that in perfect stillness time would vanish entirely, not stop, but become meaningless. You sit with that idea. What if time is not real in the way we think it is? What if it's just a story we tell ourselves to make sense of the flow? Does that make it less beautiful or more? Because even if it is illusion, it is a precise one, a rhythm so consistent it creates worlds. You drift through this rhythm. You let it carry you. There's no need to push, to resist, to hold on too tightly. The arrow of time does not demand anything of you. It simply invites you to move, to feel, to change, to rest, and one day to return to silence. But even then, the memory of your pattern, the shape of your dance, may remain in the soft geometry of nothing, like a song that lingers after its final note. You feel this now, not as urgency, but as grace. Time does not rush. It unfolds, and every moment you have ever known was a ripple in that unfolding. You are a crest on a much larger wave, and the wave continues. Long after you, long before you close your eyes, the arrow of time presses gently forward. If time flows like a river, where does the river begin? Where does it lead? Or perhaps it loops, or folds, or echoes. Perhaps time is not one arrow, but many, each tied to its own unfolding, its own measure of change. And in the great quiet of the universe, as one time fades, another may just begin to stir. You were never separate, not from the stars, not from the dark between them, not from the final hush waiting quietly ahead. Even now, floating in thought, you can feel it, the gentle tug of belonging, like a tide, not rushing in, but slowly drawing you home. Every particle in you once belonged to something older. The calcium in your bones, forged in ancient stars. The iron in your blood, a relic of some long-forgotten supernova that bloomed and faded before Earth had a name. And even your breath, oxygen shared by leaves and oceans, carbon once held in the hearts of suns. You are a library of borrowed stardust, a pattern the universe tried on for a little while. You were not made. You were gathered. Not random, but not fixed either. You emerged like foam on the crest of time's wave, a moment of form, riding centuries of change. Now, in the hush of near endings, you sense the slow return. Not loss, but release. Entropy moves forward, but in that unfolding, everything finds new places to rest. You are not fading. You are dispersing, like a dandelion blown open in the wind, like light refracting across rain. All that you are, your body, your memories, your breath, will ripple outward and rejoin the vast equation that wrote you. Even your thoughts, which feel so fragile, so personal, are shaped by the structure of reality. Consciousness, like matter, emerges when complexity reaches a certain shape. Like ice forms when water cools, Your awareness came from a particular folding of time, heat, and information. You are not outside the universe peering in. You are the universe peering at itself. And when your pattern dissolves, it does not vanish. It returns, becomes part of what will come next, not as you, but not to either. The difference between self and cosmos begins to blur. In the silence, you feel it, the soft unwinding. Your body, no longer a boundary, but a bridge. Atoms slip away like falling leaves. Thoughts melt into rhythm. You do not resist. You drift as if remembering how to rest. This is not erasure. This is release. Like a drop of ink becoming ocean. Like the last note of a song echoing into stillness. Physics tells us nothing is ever truly destroyed, only rearranged. Mass becomes energy. Energy spreads. Patterns fade, but the elements remain. Waiting to be called into form again, you wonder softly who might hold your atoms next. Perhaps a mountain. Perhaps the skin of a newborn star. Perhaps another conscious spark somewhere in another sky, thinking thoughts that rhyme with yours. Or perhaps no form at all, just a field. A quiet shimmer in space, the hum of probability, dancing across vacuum. The truth is, you do not vanish, you transform. This is the universe's oldest song. It hums it in galaxies, whispers it in comets, echoes it in the rise and fall of all things. You are part of that music. You always were. And now, as the verse winds down, you are ready to return to the chorus. Even language begins to let go. Words lose their grip, not because they are wrong, but because they are too small to hold what you are becoming. A being, a memory, a wave, a piece of universe remembering itself. This is not something to fear. It is something to feel. Feel the weight of belonging. Feel the gentleness of returning. Feel how nothing you are is wasted. Every breath you ever took is still out there. Every thought a flutter in the field. Every kindness a pattern that ripples through space and time. This moment, this letting go, is not an end. It is a merging. The skin between you and the stars was always an illusion. And now you step through, not alone, not forgotten. You are the quiet in the equation, the pause between pulses, the line where thought becomes light. And still, something of you watches as structure dissolves, as time itself loosens its grip, as even the constants of physics begin to shiver and shift. What remains when all is soft, all is still? Only presence, only becoming, and in becoming, you arrive where questions no longer need answers, where curiosity becomes the current itself, where wonder becomes the world. You float here now, not as a thing, but as a feeling, woven into the quiet tapestry of all that was, and all that may be again. Because in the heart of change, there is no loss. There is only return. And just as you dissolve into the whole, you sense it. Something new gathers quietly at the edge. Another breath in a different silence. Something forming, something not to, and yet also you. A rhythm starting again. You've walked a long path, across stars that burned and vanished, across dark matter's silence and gravity's embrace, through time's long breath and space's slow stretch. Now you arrive at something we call an end. But you sense already, it is not a wall, not a sudden drop, not a final chord. It is a soft closing, a page curling shut in wind, concluding with the faintest period, punctuated not by silence, but by stillness. The universe has aged. You feel it in the way the stars no longer form as they once did. Galaxies drift farther apart, like old friends moving to distant shores. The sky, once crowded with brilliance, dims not with sorrow, but with rest. You walk through this twilight. Cosmic background radiation has cooled. Its glow a whisper, now just a trace of the fire that once filled everything. Black holes remain, like quiet sentinels. But even they lose their grip. They evaporate slowly, fading into the dark through Hawking radiation. Each flicker a farewell, and yet nothing is rushed. This ending unfolds over trillions upon trillions of years. The universe does not collapse. Its size, entropy, continues its gentle work, not destroying, but redistributing. Heat evens out, energy spreads thin, order yields to quiet randomness. The dance grows slower, less intricate, until all that remains is a kind of peace. There is a beauty in that, a grace to this dissolving, like a snowflake melting, not because it failed, but because it finished falling. And you were part of its voice. It sang itself into complexity, into stars and oceans, into eyes that looked back at the sky and asked, softly, why? That question is still here. It lingers, even now, not needing an answer, just a witness. You have been that, not merely an observer, but a participant, a verse in the poem, a moment of light. And now, as light itself begins to fade, you feel no panic. Instead, you feel something deeper, reverence. This universe was never permanent. It was a phase, a breath, a gesture. All that was, the galaxies, the gravity, the minds and memories, was held in place by laws born in mystery. And now those laws have completed their work. You do not mourn, you remember. And remembering becomes a kind of presence, like the warmth of a hand once held, like a lullaby echoing just beneath silence. The last particles move slowly now, cold, sparse, still dancing, but with no music but their own rhythm. Perhaps, in some unimaginably distant future, something may shift again. Quantum fluctuations. A new universe might bud from the quiet folds of nothing. But for now, there is this, a universe grown still, and you, still here in thought, float through it, not as body, not as name, but as something deeper. A thread of meaning, woven through the dark. There's no need to resist the closing. No need to hold on to pages already turned. You do not fall. You rest. You become part of the memory that the universe carries within itself forever. Nothing is truly gone. Every fluctuation, every spark, every moment of wonder, it all folded into the story. You are not watching the end. You are watching the pause before something unknown. You are the breath between words. And maybe that is what all endings are. Not erasure, but punctuation. The soft period at the end of a beautiful sentence. The pause before the storyteller leans in again, eyes bright, and says, "Let me tell you another." It is enough to have been, to have witnessed, to have wondered. Even now, you drift within a tale still echoing through the deep geometry of space. A farewell not shouted, but whispered. Not a door slammed, but one left slightly ajar. There is calm in this. Gently, with a light that carries meaning beyond its glow. And as the last of light travels on, you go with it, as memory, as motion. As a you are told you are the story, still unfolding in whatever comes next, and now rest. Like stars that never needed names, let the last page turn softly as a new one waits beneath it. For what begins after endings is not nothing, it is wonder, waiting quietly to be read again.